Revelation chapter 7, verse 2. The seal of the living God. It is called by these names for a very simple reason, that this is exactly what it is. It is important that we understand this. The seal of God and the seal of the Holy Spirit are just that very life force itself. The seal against the invasion of sin affected by the actual presence of this power in the soul to preserve us from sinning. The Sabbath seal. And for the very same reason, the Sabbath is the seal of God now. In order for an individual to have the Sabbath of God, he needs more than simply a scriptural argument proving that the seventh day is the correct day upon which to worship, as can be learned from a careful study of the Sabbath of God. The true Sabbath is to be found only where the power of God actually is. Seventh-day observance can be found where the power of God is not. But the true Sabbath of God will always have the power of God. So the power of God is the seal of God, which means that where the true Sabbath of God is, there the seal of God is. Of this we shall have more to learn later, but for the moment let us realize that the nature of the last great conflict between the seal of God and the Sabbath and the mark of the beast. Sunday is something much more involved than merely the controversy as which day of the week we should be keeping. It will be a contest between the power of God and the power of sin, with the Sabbath being the flag waving over the one camp, and Sunday as the symbol of the power of the sin waving over the other camp. Not those, then, who have even the best arguments for the rightness of the seventh day, but those in whom is the power of God, the seal of the Holy Spirit, will stand on the side of the living God. Must be maintained. It hardly needs to be stated here that the first seal is not permanent except as we refuse to let it go. No one, not even the devil himself, can take this seal away from us. But we can choose to let it go, just as did the sinless pair in Eden and King David over the matter of Uriah the Hittite. Although there is no longer the responsive enemy within, there is the human nature where Satan can make his temptations felt. And while the divine nature will strongly call upon the reasoning mind of the individual to refuse to yield, the human nature can exert powerful pressure on the individual to surrender to the citadel to the enemy. It is here that the intellectual seal is so badly needed. This battle must be fought out in the mind, and is a battle which every Christian must fight to the very end of his days against the powerful pressures which the enemy will bring to bear against the humanity of all of us. For a splendid example of this, study the experience of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. This aspect of the case is important and one which must occupy a lot of study and thought on the part of Christians. We'll talk about this later. This is not to say that the battle will not become more difficult as we go on through life. The truth is, of course, that the test and the temptations will become stiffer, but only in proportion to the power to meet them. The first sealing of the Holy Spirit is not the last. Progressively, the work of cleansing goes forward, and as our capacity to receive increases, we shall receive more and more of the presence of the power of the Holy Spirit in the soul of the believer. This seals us more and more. The early part of this work is performed in the power of the former rain. Its finishing stages are accomplished by the outpouring of the latter rain, which achieves the completion of the work of God's grace in the soul. We all need this. Before we summarize the facts concerning the first seal and pass on the understanding of the second and final seal, we need to comprehend the work of the former and latter rain as a seal of the living God. This we shall proceed do in the next part 2.